She fell down from a helicopter, from the blanket her father sold her to. 3 months after, the Mafia boss kept her for 3 months, turning her into a weapon to take revenge on her fiancé and her father. But along the way, Yuna fell in love with the Mafia boss without confessing. Soon after, the Mafia boss's ex-fiancé returned, and what happens next will shock you. The Mafia boss left her to take revenge on her father alone. But she was caught. Will the Mafia boss save her, or will he choose his fiancé? Find out as you journey with us. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like the video and leave a comment. Jae-hyun didn't move away. Yuna could feel the heat radiating from his bare skin, could smell the clean sweat and the familiar scent of his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. Her body betrayed her, hyper-aware of every inch of space between them, wanting to close it and terrified of what would happen if she did. "You're not fine," he said quietly, and there was something in his voice that made her chest constrict. "I've trained you for 3 months, Yuna. I know when you're lying. I know when you're hiding something. Talk to me." There's nothing to talk about. She forced herself to step forward, putting distance between them, wrapping her arms around herself like she could hold the pieces together through sheer will. "I told you. I just needed space. I'm allowed to have feelings that don't concern you." "Feelings about what?" "Everything. You. Her. The impossible situation I've found myself in where I'm falling for a man I can't have." "About my father," Yuna lied, grasping for anything that would sound believable. "About my mother's death. About the fact that I'm stuck here playing this revenge game when sometimes I just want to run away and forget all of it. Forget him. Forget the Kims. Forget everything." It wasn't entirely a lie. Those feelings existed too, buried under the heartbreak, under the jealousy, under the crushing weight of wanting Jae-hyun and knowing she couldn't have him. She heard him exhale slowly behind her. "If you want to leave, I won't stop you." The words hit her like a slap. Yuna spun around, and the expression on his face stopped her cold. He looked resigned, tired, like he'd been expecting this. "What?" "If you want to leave," Jae-hyun repeated, his dark eyes holding hers with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. "I meant what I said before. You're not a prisoner. You never were. If this is too much, if you want out, I'll give you money, documents, a safe place to start over. You don't owe me anything." "I owe you my life." "No." He shook his head firmly. "You owe me nothing. I pulled you from that ocean because I needed you, not because you owed me gratitude. And if you decide you don't want this anymore, don't want revenge, don't want to be here," his voice cracked slightly, "then go. I won't hold you back." Yuna stared at him, confusion and hurt warring in her chest. Was he trying to get rid of her? Now that Seo-yeon was back, did he want Yuna gone so? Yuna stared at him, confusion and hurt warring in her chest. Was he trying to get rid of her? Now that Seo-yeon was back, did he want Yuna gone so he could rebuild his perfect life with his perfect fiancé without complications? "Fine." The word formed in her mind with crystalline clarity, sharp and cold as the blade she'd learned to wield. If he wanted her gone, she'd go. She didn't need him. Didn't need his training or his protection, or the way he looked at her sometimes like she mattered. She'd survived this long on her own. She'd survive whatever came next. "Okay," Yuna said, her voice eerily calm. "I'll leave." Jae-hyun's face went pale. "What?" "You're right. I don't owe you anything. And you're right that I need to decide what I want." She met his eyes, forcing herself not to flinch at the shock she saw there. "I want revenge. That's all I've ever wanted. But I don't need you to get it." "Yuna, that's not what I meant, isn't it?" She stepped closer to him, anger finally breaking through the numbness. "You just offered me money and documents and a way out. You practically begged me to leave. So I'm leaving. Give me what you promised, and I'll be gone by tonight." "I didn't mean right now. I didn't mean. He ran both hands through his hair, frustration and something like panic flooding his features. I was trying to tell you that you have choices. That you're free. Not that I wanted you to. To what? To stay and watch you rebuild your life with Seoyeon? To keep training like nothing's changed when everything's changed. The words burst out before Yuna could stop them, revealing too much, showing cracks in her carefully constructed walls. Jae-hyun went very still. This is about her.
No.
Yuna forced herself to step back, to rebuild her control.
This is about me.
About what I want. And what I want is my revenge.
I don't need you for that.
I never did. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue, but she held his gaze, daring him to challenge her. You'll get yourself killed, Jae-hyun said quietly. Your father has an army. The Kim family wants you dead. You're not ready to face them alone. Then I'll die trying. Yuna's voice was flat, emotionless. Better than staying here, and she stopped herself. And what? Better than staying here and watching you with her. Better than falling more in love with you every day while knowing you'll never choose me. Better than dying slowly from the inside out. Just give me what you promised, Yuna said instead.
Money.
Documents. I'll handle the rest. Jae-hyun looked at her for a long moment, something unreadable in his dark eyes. Then he nodded slowly, defeat written across his features. I'll have everything ready in an hour. Good. She turned to walk away, and this time he didn't stop her. Didn't call her name. Didn't chase after her like part of her desperately hoped he would. Just let her go, and that hurt worse than anything else. Yuna packed in mechanical silence. She didn't have much. A few changes of clothes, the knife Jae-hyun had given her, the gun she'd learned to shoot with deadly accuracy. Everything fit in a small backpack, her entire life reduced to what she could carry. Minji came to her room as the sun began to set, her eyes red and swollen. Miss Yuna, please. Don't go. Boss is. Boss is what? Yuna cut her off, her voice sharp. Tell me, Minji. What is he? The older woman's mouth opened and closed helplessly. He's miserable. He's been sitting in his office staring at nothing for the past hour. Whatever happened between you two, whatever you think you know. I don't think anything. I know exactly what's happening. His fiancé is back. He has obligations. Family. A future that doesn't include me. Yuna zipped up the backpack with more force than necessary. I'm just removing myself from the equation. He cares about you. Not enough. The words came out quieter, more broken than Yuna intended. Never enough. Minji wiped at her eyes. Where will you go? I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere. Yuna slung the backpack over her shoulder and took one last look around the room that had been her sanctuary for 3 months. Tell him thank you. For everything. Tell him I'm grateful. Tell him. Her voice cracked and she stopped, unable to continue. Tell him yourself, Minji whispered. Please. He's in his office. Just talk to him before you leave. But Yuna couldn't. If she saw him again, if she looked into those dark eyes one more time, her resolve would crumble. She'd stay, and staying would destroy her piece by piece until nothing remained. Godyemi. She walked past the older woman, down the stairs, through the hallways she'd memorized during sleepless nights. The house was quiet, most of the guards stationed outside or in the security buildings. No one stopped her as she headed for the front entrance. The envelope was waiting on the table by the door, thick with cash, new identity documents, everything Jae-hyun had promised. Yuna picked it up, her hands trembling slightly, and tucked it into her jacket. She paused at the door, her hand on the handle, every instinct screaming at her to turn around. To go to his office. To demand answers. To fight for something she wasn't sure existed. Instead, she opened the door and stepped out into the cool evening air. The gates opened automatically as she approached, and Yuna didn't look back. Couldn't look back. She walked down the tree-lined road, each step taking her farther from the man she loved and closer to the revenge that had always been her true purpose. The city swallowed her whole. Seoul at night was a maze of neon and noise, millions of people moving through their lives completely unaware of the broken woman walking among them. Yuna checked into a cheap hotel in Gangnam, the kind of place that didn't ask questions if you paid cash up front. The room was small and impersonal, stained carpet, flickering light, the smell of cigarettes and desperation soaked into the walls. She sat on the edge of the bed, back. #The Ghost Bride's Revenge. Part 2 continued. Batch 9 1000 words, continued. The room was small and impersonal, stained carpet, flickering light, the smell of cigarettes and desperation soaked into the walls. Yuna sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing, her backpack still on her shoulders like she might need to run at any moment. Her phone buzzed. A burner, one of 3 Jae-hyun had given her for emergencies. She pulled it out, and her chest tightened when she saw the message. * safe house addresses attached. Use them if needed. JH*. 3 more buzzes followed, locations scattered across Seoul, each one a lifeline she hadn't asked for but he'd given anyway. Yuna stared at the screen until it went dark, her thumb hovering over the delete button. She should erase them. Cut all ties. Make this break clean and final. She saved them instead. Pathetic. Yuna dropped the phone on the bed and moved to the window, pulling back the stained curtain to look down at the street below. The hotel was positioned on a busy corner, traffic flowing like blood through the city's veins, people moving in and out of restaurants and convenience stores. And there, leaning against a black sedan parked across the street, was a man she recognized.
Sungmin.
One of Jae-hyun's senior guards, the one who'd taught her how to disarm an opponent twice her size. He was pretending to smoke, his eyes scanning the hotel entrance with the casual alertness of someone trained to look without looking. Yuna's jaw tightened. She moved away from the window and checked the other side of the building. Another car, another guard she didn't recognize but whose posture screamed military training. He was reading a newspaper that he hadn't turned a page of in the 5 minutes she'd been watching. Unbelievable, she muttered, anger flaring hot in her chest. She grabbed her phone and typed furiously, "Call off your dogs." The response came within seconds. "No. I don't need protection." "Yes, you do. I left. That means you don't get to control me anymore." The phone rang. Yuna stared at Jae-hyun's name on the screen, her finger hovering over the decline button. She let it ring 4 times before answering.
What?
Her voice was sharp, defensive. "They're staying." His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept. "You can be angry about it, but they're staying. I didn't leave your house just to have you follow me around Seoul. You left because you're running from something you won't name." A pause, heavy with unspoken words. "But I won't let you die because of my mistakes." "Your mistakes?" Yuna laughed bitterly. "What mistakes, Jae-hyun? Being honest about having a fiancé? Trying to honor family obligations? Those aren't mistakes. Those are choices." Silence stretched between them, filled with everything they weren't saying. "The guards stay," he finally said, quieter now. "They won't interfere. You won't even know they're there. But they stay." "I already know they're there. Sungmin is across the street smoking the same cigarette he lit 20 minutes ago." Very subtle. She heard what might have been a smile in his voice. "I'll tell him to rotate them more frequently. Don't bother. I'm not staying here long, anyway." "Where are you going?" "None of your business." "Yuna." "Goodbye, Jae-hyun." She hung up before he could respond, before the crack in his voice could make her weak, before she did something stupid like ask him to come get her, to tell her that Seo-yun meant nothing, to choose her instead. The phone rang again immediately. She turned it off and threw it on the bed. Meanwhile, at the estate Jae-hyun stared at his phone screen, at the call that had been disconnected, and resisted the urge to put his fist through the wall. Instead, he pressed the intercom button connecting him to his head of security.
Minho.
Yes, boss. Sung-min reported in. 5 minutes ago. Subject is in her room, 4th floor, west side. No movement since she entered an hour ago.
Subject.
They were calling her subject now, like she was a job, a mission, just another person to protect. The clinical language made Jae-hyun's stomach turn. I want eyes on her 24/7, he said, his voice hard. 3-man rotation minimum. If she so much as walks to the convenience store, I want to know about it. Boss. She made Sung-min already. She's not going to like. I don't care if she likes it. Jae-hyun stood abruptly, pacing to the window that overlooked the training grounds where just hours ago he'd stood too close to her, had offered her freedom when what he really wanted was to beg her to stay. Her father has a network across Seoul. The Kim family has assassins actively hunting her. She's trained, but she's not ready for what's out there. Not alone. Understood. What's our protocol if she engages in high-risk behavior? Jae-hyun closed his eyes. High-risk behavior. That was a delicate way of asking what they should do if Yuna went after her father on her own, which, knowing her stubbornness and her pain, was exactly what she'd do. Intervene only if her life is in immediate danger, he said finally. Otherwise, maintain distance. She needs to think she's doing this alone. And if she orders us away directly, ignore her. Boss, with all respect, she's going to hate this. She's going to hate you. She already does. The words tasted like ash. At least this way she'll be alive to hate me. He heard Minho's hesitation before the man spoke again. Permission to speak freely? Granted. Why did you let her leave? Jae-hyun's hand clenched around the phone. Because I thought it was what she wanted. And now I'm realizing that what she wants and what she needs aren't the same thing. He returned to his desk, pulling up the surveillance feeds on his computer. Multiple screens showed different angles of Yuna's hotel, the street, the surrounding area. She wants revenge. She needs to survive. I can't give her both, but I can make sure she lives long enough to figure out which one matters more. What about Miss Seo-yeon? Jae-hyun's jaw tightened at the name. What about her? She's been calling. Wants to know when you'll see her again. Her father called too, asking about the engagement. Tell them I'm handling family business. Tell them anything. I don't care. He leaned forward, studying the screen showing Yuna's window. The curtain was drawn, but he could see her shadow moving inside. Right now, the only thing that matters is keeping Yuna alive. Minho was quiet for a moment. You love her. It wasn't a question. Jae-hyun didn't answer, didn't confirm or deny. Just sat there watching that shadow move across the curtain, memorizing the shape of her, the way she paced when she was thinking, planning, preparing for something reckless. Double the guard, he said instead. And Minho? If anything happens to her, if anyone so much as looks at her wrong. I know, boss. We all know. The line went dead, and Jae-hyun was alone again with his screens and his mistakes and the hollow ache in his chest where something vital used to be. Back at the hotel, Yuna knew they were there. Felt their presence like a weight on her shoulders every time she moved. When she went down to the convenience store at midnight for instant noodles and water, a different guard followed at a discreet distance, a woman this time, blending into the late-night crowd with practiced ease. When she took a taxi to a PC Bang in Itaewon at 2 a.m, unable to sleep, unable to stop thinking, there was a motorcyclist trailing 3 cars behind. And when she finally accessed the dark web from a computer tucked in the back corner of the internet cafe, using credentials Jae-hyun had taught her to create, she knew someone was probably monitoring her activity remotely. Let them watch. Let them report back to him that she was searching for information on her father's movements, on his business meetings, on his routines and patterns. Let Jae-hyun know she wasn't giving up, wasn't running away to hide and forget. She was hunting. The screen glowed in the darkened cafe, populated only by gamers and insomniacs and people like her, ghosts moving through the city's underbelly. Yuna's fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing forums and encrypted channels she'd learned about during her training. Park Jin-woo, her father. The man who'd thrown her from a helicopter like she was garbage. The man who'd orchestrated her mother's death to facilitate a business merger. The man who needed to pay. 3 weeks ago, finding information on him would have been impossible. But 3 months of training with Jae-hyun's intelligence network had taught her where to look, how to ask, what to offer in exchange for whispers and rumors. A name appeared in her search. Kim Tae-sung. The mafia boss her father had sold her to, the man whose son she was supposed to marry before everything went to hell. According to the forum posts, Kim Tae-sung was meeting with Park Jin-woo tomorrow night. Business deal. Neutral territory. A restaurant in Gangnam that catered to men who needed privacy and didn't ask questions about the blood on their money. Yuna's heart hammered against her ribs. Tomorrow night. Less than 24 hours away. She could do this. Could walk in there with a gun and end both of them before their guards even knew what was happening. Jae-hyun had trained her well. She was fast, accurate, deadly when she needed to be. She'd also be dead within seconds of pulling the trigger. But maybe that was okay. Maybe dying while taking them down was better than living with this constant ache in her chest, this feeling that she'd lost something she never really had. Yuna copied the information onto a USB drive, cleared her browsing history with military precision, and left the cafe. The night air was cold against her flushed skin, and she could sense her shadow following. The motorcyclist from before, now on foot, pretending to window shop at closed stores. She turned abruptly, walking straight toward him. The man froze, clearly not expecting her to engage. He was young, maybe late 20s, with the build of someone who spent serious time in the gym. His hand moved toward his jacket, where she knew he carried at least one gun, possibly 2. "Tell him I said thank you," Yuna said quietly when she was close enough that only he could hear. The guard blinked, surprised. "Mississippi Park, I don't know what you..." "Don't insult me. We both know who sent you." She held his gaze, unflinching. "Tell Jae-hyun I appreciate the concern. Tell him the guards can go home. Tell him I'll be fine." "I can't do that, Mississippi." "Can't or won't?" "Both." The guard's expression softened slightly. "Boss's orders are absolute. We protect you whether you want it or not." "Even if I'm walking into a suicide mission?" The man's jaw tightened. "Especially then." Yuna studied him, seeing the loyalty there, the dedication that Jae-hyun inspired in his people. They'd die for him, without question. Would probably die for her too, just because he'd ordered it. "What's your name?" she asked. "Kong Dae-young, Mississippi." "Well, Kong Dae-young, I'm going to do something incredibly stupid tomorrow night. Something your boss would absolutely forbid if he knew about it. Are you going to stop me?" Dae-young's expression didn't change. "My orders are to protect you, not control you. If you walk into danger, I follow. If you need backup, I provide it. If you die," his voice hardened, "I die trying to prevent it. Those are my orders." He really said that? He said if anything happens to you, we shouldn't bother coming back. Dae-young's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Boss has never been this serious about protecting someone before. Not even Miss Seo-yeon when she was still here. The name hit Yuna like a slap, reminder of everything she was trying to forget. "Well," she managed, her voice steady despite the pain. "I'd hate for you to die, because I'm an idiot. So maybe keep your distance tomorrow. Far enough that you don't get caught in the crossfire. I'll be exactly as close as I need to be, Mississippi Park. No closer, no farther." Yuna watched Dae-young melt back into the shadows, becoming just another late-night pedestrian, and she felt the weight of Jae-hyun's protection settle over her like a blanket she couldn't shake off. She walked back to her hotel alone but not alone, followed but not abandoned, and the contradiction made her chest ache. At the Han estate, same night. Jae-hyun stood in his grandmother's private sitting room, a space he'd been summoned to at midnight with the kind of urgency that meant trouble. The old woman sat in her chair like a queen on a throne, her back straight despite her 80 years, her eyes sharp as the blade she'd once used to kill a man who disrespected her late husband. 2 weeks, she said without preamble. The engagement announcement with Seo-yeon will happen in 2 weeks. Her father and I have agreed. Jae-hyun's hands clenched at his sides. Grandmother. Do not grandmother me. Her voice cracked like a whip. 3 years ago, that girl disappeared and brought shame to both families. Now she's returned with explanations, with apologies, with her father's renewed commitment to our alliance. The wedding will proceed.
No.
The word came out flat, final. Grandmother's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? I said no. Jae-hyun met her gaze, without flinching. I won't marry Seo-yeon. Not in 2 weeks. Not ever. The silence that followed was dangerous. Grandmother set down her teacup with deliberate care, the porcelain clicking against the saucer, like a gun being cocked. Have you lost your mind? Her voice was deceptively soft. This alliance has been planned for 5 years. Seo-yeon's father controls the ports. Without his cooperation, our shipping operations collapse. 40% of our revenue gone. Do you understand what that means? I understand perfectly. Jae-hyun's jaw was tight, every muscle in his body coiled with tension. I also understand that I won't spend my life with a woman I don't love to protect business interests. Love. Grandmother laughed, the sound bitter and sharp. You foolish boy. Love is a luxury men in our position cannot afford. Your grandfather didn't love me when we married. I didn't love him. But we built an empire together. We honored our commitments. We did our duty. And were you happy? The question hung in the air like smoke. Grandmother's face hardened, every line and wrinkle deepening into something that looked like old pain wrapped in decades of resignation. Happiness is irrelevant. Survival is what matters.
Power.
Legacy. The family. I'm not marrying her. Jae-hyun's voice was steel. I've made my choice. Choice. Grandmother stood abruptly, her small frame radiating fury. You have no choice. Seo-yeon's father saved your life when the Kim family tried to assassinate you 4 years ago. He took a bullet meant for you. We owe him a blood debt. This marriage is how we repay it. Jae-hyun felt the words like a blow, but he held his ground. Then I'll find another way to repay him. Money.
Territory.
Anything but this. There is no other way. Grandmother's control finally snapped. Do you think I want to force you? Do you think I enjoy watching my grandson throw away everything we've built? But duty demands sacrifice. Always has. Always will. I know about sacrifice, Jae-hyun said quietly.
I've sacrificed plenty.
But not this. Not anymore. Not anymore? Grandmother's eyes narrowed dangerously. What's changed? What could possibly? She stopped, understanding dawning across her face. The girl. That black American girl you pulled from the ocean. Park Jin-woo's daughter. Jae-hyun said nothing, but his silence was answer enough. You foolish, stupid boy. Grandmother's voice dropped to something cold and lethal. You would throw away everything, family, honor, duty, for some broken woman who doesn't even belong in our world? Don't talk about her like that. I'll talk about her however I please. Grandmother stepped closer, her face twisted with anger. She's nothing. A tool for revenge. A weapon you're using against Park Jin-woo. That's all she can ever be. You cannot possibly. I love her. The words burst out before Jae-hyun could stop them, raw and honest and terrifying. I love her, grandmother. And I won't marry someone else while. The slap came so fast he didn't see it coming. Grandmother's palm connected with his cheek with enough force to snap his head to the side, the sound echoing through the quiet room like a gunshot. You disgrace this family, she hissed, her voice shaking with rage. You disgrace your grandfather's memory. You disgrace everything we've built. That girl has poisoned your mind, made you weak, made you forget who you are and what you owe. Jae-hyun touched his stinging cheek, tasting blood where his teeth had cut the inside of his mouth. I know exactly who I am. Do you? Grandmother's eyes were bright with fury and something that might have been fear. Do you know that Seo-yun's father will consider this rejection an insult? That he'll withdraw his support? That without the ports, the Russians will move in and take everything? Do you know how many of our people will die in the war that follows? I'll handle it. You'll handle it? She laughed again, that bitter sound that made Jae-hyun's chest ache. With what? Good intentions? Love? You cannot fight economics and politics with feelings, boy. The real world doesn't work that way. Then maybe the real world needs to change. And maybe you need to grow up. Grandmother grabbed his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. Listen to me. I have lived 80 years in this world. I have seen men destroyed by love, families ruined by sentiment, empires crumbling because someone chose heart over head. Do not be one of them. Do not throw everything away for a woman who will never truly fit into this life. Jae-hyun gently removed her hand from his arm. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing something different. Choosing what? A future where you're weak? Where your enemies see you making decisions based on emotion and exploit it? Where that girl becomes a target because everyone knows she's your weakness? The words hit harder because they were true. Yuna was already a target. His feelings for her had made her one. Every enemy he had would eventually figure out that hurting her was the fastest way to destroy him. She's already left, Grandmother continued, her voice slightly softer now, more calculating. I heard from Minji. The girl packed her things and walked out this morning. She's gone, Jae-hyun. Whatever you felt, whatever you imagined might happen, it's over. She made her choice. Now make yours. She left because of Seo-yun, Jae-hyun said quietly. Because she thinks I'm choosing duty over her. Because I haven't been honest about what I feel. Then don't be honest. Grandmother's tone turned almost pleading. Let her go. Marry Seo-yun. Honor your commitments. In time, you'll forget about. I won't forget her. The certainty in his voice surprised even him. I'll never forget her. Batch 12, 1,000 words. Grandmother stared at him for a long moment, and Jae-hyun watched something shift in her expression. The anger drained away, replaced by something that looked almost like grief. You really love her, she said, and it wasn't a question anymore. Yes. Enough to destroy everything your grandfather and I built? Enough to start a war with the Han family? Enough to watch people die because you refuse to do your duty? Jae-hyun felt the weight of those words, felt them pressing down on his chest until breathing became difficult. I don't know, he admitted. All I know is that I can't marry Seo-yun. I can't stand at an altar and promise my life to someone else when my heart belongs to. Don't say it. Grandmother held up a hand. Don't make it more real by saying it again. She walked to the window, her back to him, and for the first time in Jae-hyun's memory, she looked old. Not just aged, but old. Bent under the weight of years and decisions and sacrifices that had cost her more than she'd ever admitted. Your grandfather, she said quietly, had a woman he loved before me. Did you know that? Jae-hyun shook his head even though she couldn't see him. Her name was Manesio, a teacher's daughter. Beautiful, kind, completely unsuited for this life. Grandmother's voice was distant, lost in memory. He loved her desperately, wanted to marry her despite his family's objections. But his father, your great-grandfather, explained the reality. Our family was at war with the Kong Syndicate. We were losing. The only way to survive was an alliance marriage with the Song family. With me. She turned back to face him, and Jae-hyun saw tears in her eyes for the first time in his life. He chose duty, she continued. Married me. Built an empire.
Had children.
lived a long, successful life. And every year on Minecio's birthday, he would go to her grave and lay flowers there. 53 years. Until the day he died. The revelation hit Jae-hyun like a physical blow. Grandmother. I knew, she said simply. I always knew. And it ate at me every day of our marriage. Knowing I was second choice. Knowing he looked at me and saw the woman he'd sacrificed for duty. But we survived. The family survived. And that's what matters in the end. I can't live like that, Jae-hyun said. I won't. Then you'll watch everything collapse. Grandmother's voice hardened again. Seo-yeon's father expects this marriage. Has been expecting it for 3 years, waiting patiently for her return. If you refuse now, after she's come back, after he's renewed his commitment to our alliance, he'll see it as the gravest insult. Everything your grandfather built, everything I've protected, will crumble. Let it crumble. The words came out stronger than Jae-hyun expected. I'll build something new. Something that doesn't require me to sacrifice the only real thing I've felt in years. Grandmother's laugh was hollow. Build something new? You arrogant child. You think empires are built on love and good intentions? They're built on blood and sacrifice and doing the hard things no one else will do. Your grandfather understood that. I understand that. Why can't you? Because I'm not my grandfather. Jae-hyun met her eyes steadily. And maybe his way wasn't the only way. Maybe there's a different path. There's no different path. Grandmother's control shattered completely. She grabbed a teacup from the table and hurled it at the wall, where it exploded in a shower of porcelain shards. There's only survival or destruction. And you're choosing destruction for what? For a woman who doesn't even want to be here? Who ran away the moment things got complicated? She ran because I hurt her. Because I didn't choose her when I should have. Then keep hurting her. Grandmother was shouting now, her voice raw. Push her away. Marry Seo-yeon. Do what needs to be done. You think I wanted to spend 53 years knowing my husband loved someone else? You think that didn't destroy something inside me every single day? But I did it. I sacrificed my happiness for this family. And now I'm telling you to do the same.
No.
Jae-hyun's voice was quiet but immovable. I won't. The slap came again. Harder this time. Hard enough to make him taste more blood. But he didn't move, didn't react, just stood there absorbing his grandmother's fury and pain and desperation. You're making a mistake, she whispered, her hand still raised as if she might hit him again. A mistake that will cost lives. That will cost everything. Maybe. Jae-hyun touched his burning cheek. But it's my mistake to make. If you walk away from this engagement, I'll disown you. Cut you off from the family. You'll have nothing. No resources, no protection, no. I have Yuna. The certainty in his voice surprised them both. That's enough. Grandmother stared at him, and something in her expression crumbled. She suddenly looked ancient, defeated, like she'd lost a battle she'd been fighting her entire life. Get out, she said, her voice barely audible. Get out of my sight. I don't want to see you until you've come to your senses. Jae-hyun bowed slightly, the gesture automatic, respectful despite everything, and turned to leave. Jae-hyun. He stopped at the door, looking back. Grandmother's face was wet with tears she wasn't bothering to hide anymore. If you do this, if you choose her over duty, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if you made the right choice. Just like your grandfather did. Just like I did. That doubt will eat at you every single day. Maybe, Jae-hyun said quietly. But at least I'll be alive enough to doubt. At least I'll be feeling something real instead of just existing. He left before she could respond, closing the door softly behind him and standing in the hallway trying to remember how to breathe. His cheek throbbed where she'd hit him twice, and he could feel the weight of her words settling into his bones. But underneath the pain and the guilt and the fear of what might come, there was something else. Something that felt almost like freedom. He pulled out his phone and dialed Minho. Status on Yuna? She accessed a PC bang 2 hours ago. Dark web search. Looks like she's hunting information on her father. Jae-hyun's stomach dropped. What did she find? We're still decrypting, but preliminary data suggests she's located a meeting. Tomorrow night. Park Jin-woo and Kim Tae-sung. The restaurant on Samseong-ro. She's going after them. That's our assessment. Jae-hyun closed his eyes, fear and pride warring in his chest. She was going to do it. Going to walk into that restaurant alone and try to kill 2 of the most dangerous men in Seoul's underworld. She was going to get herself killed. Double the surveillance, he ordered. I want to know every move she makes. And Minho? Yes, boss. Get me everything we have on that meeting. Security details, floor plans, exit strategies. If she's going in tomorrow night, she's not going in alone. Boss, your grandmother. I don't care what my grandmother says. Jae-hyun's voice was steel. Yuna comes first. She always comes first. Make it happen. The night air was cold against Yuna's skin as she moved through the shadows of the building across from the restaurant. Her face was hidden behind a silicone mask, an older Korean woman's features, complete with age spots and wrinkles that made her unrecognizable. The mask was uncomfortable, pulling at her real skin underneath, but it was necessary. Invisible. Just another face in a city of millions. She'd bought it from a back-alley shop in Itaewon, the kind of place that didn't ask questions when you paid in cash and didn't make eye contact. The vendor had looked at her, really looked at her, and said only, "Whatever you're planning, girl, make sure you come back." Yuna hadn't answered because she couldn't promise that. Now she climbed the service stairs of the abandoned office building, her footsteps silent on the concrete, her breath coming in controlled measures. The building had been empty for 2 years, waiting for demolition that kept getting delayed by bureaucratic red tape. Perfect for what she needed. The rifle was strapped to her back, a Chetak M200 intervention that Jae-hyun had trained her on during long nights at the estate's private range. She could still hear his voice in her head. Breathe. Steady. Don't think about the target as a person. Think about the shot. Only the shot. But the target was a person. Was her father. The man who'd thrown her from a helicopter, who'd murdered her mother, who'd sold her like property to settle business debts. He deserved this. Deserved worse than this. So, why were her hands shaking? Yuna reached the 7th floor and moved to the corner office that faced the restaurant. The windows were intact but filthy, which was good. She could see out, but anyone looking wouldn't see in. She set up her position, extending the rifle's bipod, adjusting the scope, checking sight lines.
There.
Through the restaurant's large windows, she could see them. Her father sat at a corner table, looking healthy and prosperous in an expensive suit. Kim Tae-sung sat across from him, the man whose son she'd been supposed to marry, whose family she'd helped massacre at that wedding that felt like a lifetime ago. They were laughing. Actually laughing, like old friends sharing a joke, like they hadn't destroyed lives and murdered innocents and treated people like chess pieces in their endless games of power. Yuna's finger found the trigger, her breathing slowing, her training taking over. She could do this. One shot through the window, straight into her father's skull. Maybe a second for Kim Tae-sung, if she was fast enough. Then run. Disappear into the city before anyone realized what happened. She'd be dead within a week. Their people would hunt her down, would tear Seoul apart looking for whoever had killed them. But at least she'd have her revenge. At least her mother's death would be avenged. At least she'd have done something that mattered instead of just surviving. If death came, so what? What did she have left anyway? Nothing. No one. Just the hollow ache in her chest where something warm used to be, where Jae-hyun's smile used to make her feel alive, where hope used to exist before reality crushed it. Yuna adjusted her position, centering the crosshairs on her father's head. Her finger tightened on the trigger. Just a little more pressure. Just a few pounds of force between now and justice. Asterisk breathe. Steady. Don't think. Asterisk. But she was thinking.
Couldn't stop thinking.
About her mother's face. About the helicopter door opening. About falling through empty air with the certainty of death below. About Jae-hyun pulling her from the water, saving her when she should have died, giving her a reason to keep breathing when breathing hurt. About how he'd held Seo-yeon in his arms and Yuna had watched through glass, her heart breaking in real time. Asterisk focus. Take the shot. Asterisk. A sound behind her.
Soft.
Almost imperceptible. But enough.
Yuna combat instinct screamed.
She started to turn, started to reach for the handgun at her hip, but she was too slow, positioned wrong, vulnerable in a way she hadn't been vulnerable since that first week of training when everything was new and terrifying. The man was already there, already moving. She caught a glimpse of his face, cold, professional, Korean, but with features she didn't recognize. He raised a pistol with a suppressor, the weapon aimed directly at her head, and time seemed to slow down. This was how she died. Not falling from a helicopter. Not in a dramatic shootout with her father's guards. But here, in an abandoned building, killed by someone who probably didn't even know her name, didn't know why she was here, didn't care about the revenge driving her. The gun fired. But the bullet didn't hit her. Jae-hyun crashed into the man from the side like a freight train, his shoulder connecting with the assassin's ribs with enough force to drive them both into the wall. The suppressed gunshot went wide, the bullet burying itself in the ceiling. And then they were fighting. Yuna scrambled backward, her mind trying to process what she was seeing. Jae-hyun. Here.
Now. How?
The fight was brutal and efficient. No movie choreography, no dramatic poses. Just two trained killers trying to end each other as quickly as possible. Jae-hyun moved with the lethal grace she'd watched during training, every strike precise and devastating. But the other man was good too, blocking, countering, going for Jae-hyun's throat with fingers curved like claws. They crashed into filing cabinets, sending old papers scattering. Grappled on the floor, each trying to gain position. The assassin got his hands around Jae-hyun's throat, squeezing, and Yuna saw Jae-hyun's face start to darken.
She didn't think.
Just moved. Her handgun was in her hand, the safety already off, muscle memory taking over. She aimed at the assassin's head and fired twice. The suppressed shots were louder in the enclosed space than they should have been, and the man jerked once, twice, then went still. Jae-hyun shoved the body off him, gasping for air, blood on his face from a cut above his eye. He looked at Yuna, and she saw relief flood his features before he could mask it. Are you insane? His voice was rough from being choked, each word scraped raw. Do you have any idea what you almost? Batch 14, 1,000 words. But Yuna couldn't hear him, couldn't process his words. Everything was hitting her at once. The adrenaline crash, the reality of how close she'd come to dying, the fact that Jae-hyun was here, had saved her again, had killed for her again. Her hands started shaking. Not just trembling, but full-body shakes that made the gun slip from her fingers to clatter on the floor. Her legs gave out, and she slid down the wall, her breathing coming in sharp gasps that sounded too loud in her own ears. I can't, she choked out. I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't. I'm not ready. I'm not. Jae-hyun was beside her in an instant, his hands on her face, tilting her head up to look at him. His eyes were fierce, intense, burning with something that made her chest constrict. Breathe, he commanded, his voice cutting through her panic. Yuna, look at me. Breathe.
She tried.
Drew in a shuddering breath that felt like broken glass in her lungs. Let it out. Another one. Her vision started to clear, the edges of her panic attack receding slightly. That's it, Jae-hyun said, softer now, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones where tears were leaking out from under the prosthetic mask. Keep breathing. You're okay. You're safe. Safe. Yuna laughed, the sound brittle and wrong. There's a dead man 10 feet away. My father is in that restaurant. I almost died. How is any of this safe? Because I'm here. The certainty in his voice was absolute. And I won't let anything happen to you. You can't promise that. She was still shaking, her whole body vibrating with adrenaline and fear and the crushing realization of her own inadequacy. You can't be everywhere. You can't protect me from everything. I thought I was strong enough. Thought your training made me capable. But I'm not. I froze. Didn't even hear him coming. If you hadn't. But I did. Jae-hyun's hands moved to her shoulders, gripping tight enough to ground her. I did come. And you didn't freeze when it mattered. You shot him. Saved my life. Again. After you saved mine. Again. The pattern was becoming exhausting. How many times are we going to do this? How many times are you going to rescue me? As many times as it takes.
No hesitation.
No doubt. Forever, if necessary. The word forever hung between them, loaded with implications neither of them had addressed. Yuna wanted to ask what he meant, wanted to demand explanations, wanted to scream at him for being here when he should be with Seo-yeon, planning a wedding, honoring family obligations. Instead, she started pulling at the prosthetic mask, her fingers clumsy and desperate. She needed it off, needed to breathe, needed to feel real air on her real skin. The adhesive pulled painfully, but she didn't care, just kept tearing at it until Jae-hyun gently moved her hands away. Let me, he said quietly. He removed the mask with careful precision, peeling it away slowly to minimize damage to her skin. When her face was finally free, Yuna gulped in air like she'd been drowning, and maybe she had been. Drowning in fear and inadequacy and the terrible knowledge that she'd been about to commit suicide by revenge because death seemed easier than living with this constant ache. I need help, she whispered, the admission costing her everything. I can't do this alone. I thought I could, but I can't. I'm not strong enough. Not brave enough. Not. Stop. Jae-hyun's voice was firm but not harsh. You're the strongest person I know. You survived a helicopter fall. Survived 3 months of brutal training. Survived leaving when staying was tearing you apart. But strength doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means knowing when to ask for help. I don't want to be vulnerable. The words came out broken, honest. Don't want to need anyone. Every time I need someone, they either die or leave or her voice cracked. Or choose someone else. Jae-hyun went very still. Is that what you think? That I chose Seo-yeon? Didn't you? Yuna forced herself to meet his eyes. She came back. You left with her. You held her. You're supposed to marry her in 2 weeks. Your grandmother demanded it. Family obligation. Blood debt. All the things that matter more than. She stopped herself before saying me, but they both heard it anyway. I told my grandmother no, Jae-hyun said quietly.
Tonight.
2 hours ago. I refused the engagement. Refused the wedding. Refused everything. Yuna's heart stopped. What? I told her I wouldn't marry Seo-yeon. That I couldn't. He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. That I was choosing something different. She'll disown you. Cut you off from the family. You said there would be war, that people would die. I don't care. The intensity in his eyes made Yuna's breath catch. None of that matters if you're not there. If you're out here alone, trying to get yourself killed because you think you don't matter. Because you think I chose duty over you. You should choose duty, Yuna said, even as hope started blooming dangerously in her chest. You should marry Seo-yeon. Honor your commitments. Be the man your family needs you to be. I tried that. Jae-hyun's laugh was bitter. For 3 years after she disappeared, I tried to be that man. Cold. Dutiful. Focused only on the family.
It was killing me.
Making me into something I hated. Then you fell into my life, literally fell, and suddenly I remembered what it felt like to care about something real. Someone real. Yuna's hands were still shaking, but now for different reasons. Don't say things you don't mean. Don't give me hope when I love you. The words came out raw, honest, terrifying. I'm in love with you, Park Yuna. Happened since you looked at me in that warehouse and told me you weren't broken, just bent. Maybe earlier. Maybe from the moment I pulled you from that ocean and you opened your eyes and the first thing you did was try to fight me.